Here we are back again for another study here in the book of Revelations, and it's chapter 7 this time. And I'll try to get through this fairly quickly, but we could probably stop here for quite some time and just, spend lengthy period of time, probably an hour or so, just looking at some of the different thoughts here and discussing that. And there's so much good here. You can see, actually, in the first part, it's how God's people are sealed, and it mentions about the 144,000. Now, of course, we're not talking about just a select few like the Jehovah's Witnesses would believe, but that's just a portion of the ones, because you can see a little bit further on, verse number 9 in chapter 7, the 144,000 are mentioned in verse 4. But in verse number 9 it says, "After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations," and if I could add in the word there, because that's what it's referring to, "all kindreds, and all people, and all tongues." That's the all refers to all of those. "All nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb." So this group is just an innumerable host that we can't even imagine. And notice they come from everywhere. Sometimes we almost, we may get the idea that, well, for one thing, first of all, we forget. And those of you that may be watching from quite some distance away, maybe you're even in a land or an area where there is some tribulation and persecution and all those things. And I commend you. Stay true, because one day when we arrive and we're clothed with white robes and all that, it'll be well worth it. But it's easy for us to say that here in the United States because we have it relatively good. Not everything is just, not everybody's a friend to grace, as we sometimes may say. And not everything is just conducive to Christianity. But as we look there, we see they're people from all over. And sometimes we have this whole issue promoted, kind of the reparations and racism and all the different things that go along with that. And let me just say, we're all the human race. And every nation, every kindred, every people, every tongue will be there around the throne. So God has a representative, at least, from all over the world. And it's amazing to realize how vast his kingdom is, when sometimes we feel almost like it's just us few, and who really wants to serve God anymore. We can see right here there's a host of people from all over that will be around the throne and have this same message: salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. We magnify the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world, and that literally means the world. All over the world there'll be those from every kindred, every people and tongue. And I'm just thankful for that today. We could just stop right there, and that'd probably be sufficient. But I'm glad that God has a people all over. It's not just my few. It's not just my family. But it is an innumerable host. It says there in the beginning that no man could number. And what a wonderful thing. And then, of course, you see the angels and the elders, the four beasts are gathered there worshiping God as well. And then again, I want to say there's 7 of them here. Blessing, glory, wisdom, thanksgiving, honor, power, and might. All those things are given to God. Now, I don't know if that 7 is also symbolic, the first, perfect number, and just everything that's perfect belongs to God. I don't know for sure. But then notice in verse 13, one of the elders says, he's asking John, the writer here, he's saying, what are these? Where do these people come from that are in these white robes? And John basically in humility just says, I don't know. You know where they are or where they're from. Why don't you tell me? And again, no disrespect there. I think he was just simply saying, I have no idea. Can you help me out with that? And this is what he says in verse 14. These are they which come out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple. And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them and shall lead them unto living fountains of waters, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Now, again, we could spend an awful long time there, I'm sure. But I just want to remind you, I don't know what you're going through today. And again, some of you may be going through some real persecution, and some of us may eventually have to. We don't know for sure. There's probably a variety of opinions on verse 14. These are they which come out of great tribulation. Some would like to maybe say the great tribulation, referring to a 7-year or 3.5-year period or whatever it would be, depending on your perspective on end times. But they would say it's the great tribulation. But in a sense, I've also recognized that we don't know exactly when the beginning may be, and we don't know exactly when the end, except for whenever God says it's all over. We may not know when it begins and ends, and we don't know how maybe sometimes to even count 3.5 or 7 years or whatever. We don't know when to start. But if you're going through tribulation, or if someday you may go through tribulation, it's good to know that it will all be worth it in the end. And I mentioned that earlier, but I'll just say it again. They are before the throne of God. They serve him day and night in his temple. What a wonderful thing just to be that close to the throne, and be able to serve God. Obviously, sometimes we may think, in our selfish mindset, we may think, oh, I don't want any persecution. If I can just hopefully die a natural death and nothing else goes bad before I die, I hope I can get out of this life without any persecution. But right here you can see that God well rewards those who were faithful unto death, and not just a natural death, but even in this case, these that came out of great tribulations, and through that suffering, that persecution, they were able to keep themselves pure and holy. And then again, verse 16 and verse 17, just so beautiful. They're not going to hunger anymore. As bad as it was before, won't be any longer. They won't thirst anymore either. And then also, notice the 2 there. The Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them and shall lead them. And what a wonderful blessing to recognize there is hope beyond this life. And as bad as it may sometimes seem, we have the confidence, the hope that Christ is paying attention, and he knows all about us. He knows whether we've been through some really rough places or not. And in the very end, the last phrase, God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. As bad as it may get, he knows, and he's the great comforter who will get us, first of all, safely through that trial, and then we'll just ease that pain and give us the blessing of his presence forever. Well, let's be true and faithful until he comes. I don't know what we may face, and I'm certainly not one that likes to just be doomsday and always looking at the negative and all that we may face and all the rest. I just know he's going to be there for us, and he will wipe away all the tears, and it'll be well worth it to serve him. You keep doing that, and hopefully we'll meet again soon.